Hey guys, tonight we're doing something a little different. You're not a warrior, a scholar, or some grand historical figure. Nope. Tonight you're just a little bit tired. And lucky for you, we're heading to the umbrella market in 19th century Siam, one of the slowest, most wonderfully pointless days you'll ever live through. It's humid. Birds are already fighting over crumbs. There's a rooster outside who seems personally offended by your desire to sleep in. But don't worry, this is exactly the kind of place where nothing moves quickly. Except maybe the gossip. You live in a teakwood house with slatted walls and a roof so steep it could host a sledding competition, if snow were a thing here. Which it isn't. And thank the Buddha for that, because you're already sweating through your bedsheets. You roll over, groaning, because the sun's barely up and someone's already banging pots in the alley. Somewhere a monk hits a gong with the enthusiasm of someone trying to wake the dead. The sound vibrates through your floorboards and into your spine like the world's most judgmental alarm clock. But you sit up anyway, stretch, blink. You can already smell the chili paste someone's pounding with a mortar the size of your self-doubt. That's the smell of a new day. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And hey, tell me in the comments, what time is it where you are? And what's the weather like tonight? Now dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You sit at the edge of your straw mat, dangling your feet over the floor like they might fall off. The fan, well, it's not a fan. It's your neighbor's palm leaf, rhythmically flapping against her neck, generating a kind of gentle breeze that doesn't quite reach you. There's a gecko on the ceiling watching you with deep concern. You two have a long history. You name him Chairman Naps. You yawn, then drag your limbs over to the corner where your sarong is hanging like a wet flag. It's still damp from being washed yesterday. Or possibly last week. Time is weird here. The market bell hasn't rung yet. That'll come later, when the old lady with 6 teeth and the loudest voice in Bangkok yells something about lemongrass prices. But the morning has begun, whether you like it or not. Out the open window, you see the first few vendors setting up their stalls. A woman in a saffron wrap is arranging rows of pickled mango like she's assembling a chessboard. Someone else is testing the sharpness of sugarcane by gnawing on it like an existential crisis. And there's the unmistakable creak of the bamboo bridge, the one that leads into the umbrella market. You're going to have to cross that thing today. Again. But first, clothes. You grab a white cotton tunic. It's been boiled, beaten, and sun-dried so many times it has the texture of softened bark. It smells faintly of lemongrass and mystery mildew. You decide not to ask questions. Sliding into your day clothes is like trying to fold a tent without instructions. Layers are involved. So are philosophical decisions about where sleeves actually begin. You fumble with a sash for 5 full minutes before realizing it's upside down and inside out. A cat watches you from a windowsill like you're an amateur in the theater of life. Finally, you're dressed, sort of. You step outside and instantly regret it. The humidity hits you like a warm, damp loaf of bread. And it hugs you. Hard. You trudge down the street, sandals flapping like distant applause. Each footstep sticks a little longer than it should. There's a smell of grilled banana leaves in the air, sweet and slightly burnt, which makes you think, breakfast. A child runs past you carrying 3 eels and a grin. You have no follow-up questions. The alley opens into a larger path lined with blooming frangipani trees. Bees hum lazily through the air, which means they're already more productive than you. And there it is, the bamboo bridge. It's narrow, it's high, it's damp from last night's fog, and it sways when you breathe near it. You sigh, channel your inner acrobat, who is very much on vacation, and take the first step. The slats wobble. You say a prayer to the ancient spirits of, "Please don't embarrass me." Halfway across, you meet an old man balancing 5 baskets on his shoulders and whistling like he's in a musical. He nods. You nod. There's an unspoken agreement not to die today. You make it across, just barely. Beyond the bridge, the umbrella market begins to hum. Colors bloom before your eyes. Saffron, violet, peacock green, the precise shade of a sunrise just before a hangover. Parasols open like flowers, paper creaking in the breeze. Vendors fuss over their displays like hairstylists before a royal wedding. And you've got nowhere to be, except everywhere. Because today, you're going to walk this market. You're going to meet its people. You're going to discover its stories, slowly, sleepily, and with exactly 3 too many mango snacks along the way. After all, the umbrellas aren't going anywhere. Except maybe into a gentle afternoon rain. The first thing you hear as you step off the bridge is the low creak of a cart rolling over uneven cobblestones, followed closely by the unmistakable, almost theatrical sneeze of someone who clearly regrets using chili powder as perfume. You're not even fully inside the market yet, and already you can feel the chaos warming up, like an orchestra of mild inconvenience preparing for its morning symphony. A teenage boy runs by carrying a basket of feathers, looking like he's late for a mythical bird parade. A dog chases him, but only half-heartedly, like it's been chasing that same kid for 3 years and has emotionally checked out. You pause in front of a fabric stall, pretending to admire the indigo-dyed cottons while really just catching your breath. The woman running the booth is chewing betel nut and humming a lullaby that somehow makes you drowsier than you already are. She nods at you. You nod back. It's a beautiful moment. You immediately ruin it by tripping over a clay pot. She doesn't flinch. Just says, "First time in these shoes?" You move along, dignity dragging a bit behind you. It's time to find your market outfit. You duck into a side stall, a tiny nook carved between 2 banana crates and a basket full of suspiciously damp slippers. The shopkeeper is about 107 years old, with a back like a coat hanger and eyes that could slice jackfruit. He waves a hand at a small pile of neatly folded market clothes. You hold one up. It smells like it's seen several lifetimes, and maybe a light monsoon. But it's soft, lightweight, and blessedly loose. The old man eyes you and mutters, "Not made for dancing, just breathing." Which, honestly, is all you're planning to do today anyway. You step into a corner, change behind a curtain made of old rice sacks, and emerge looking like someone who sells poetry out of an ox cart. Which is the aesthetic you didn't know you were aiming for, but fully embrace. Now clothed appropriately in lightweight linen, you shuffle out into the main corridor of the umbrella market, lined on both sides with stalls that seem to multiply the longer you walk. There's no map, no real layout. Just a living maze of people, parasols, laughter, and the occasional wandering chicken with strong opinions. You spot a young woman selling carved combs next to a man roasting tamarind pods on a flat stone. They seem to be in a silent contest over who can look the least interested in customers. It's a tie. As you pass, you hear someone shout, "Chili paste, 2 kinds, 1 for flavor, 1 for revenge." You keep walking. The next vendor you meet is an old friend, or at least she acts like one. You don't know her name. No one does. Everyone just calls her May, which means mother, but with extra authority. She's sitting behind a cart, stacked with paper fans, pickled garlic, and an item labeled in sloppy ink as "convenient sadness in a jar." May clucks her tongue and says, "You look like you forgot your breakfast." You protest that you're fine. She hands you a tiny bowl of sticky rice, warm and fragrant, topped with shredded coconut and sesame seeds. Eat, she says. You're too thin for gossip. The rice is heavenly, soft, slightly sweet, and just salty enough to make you believe in the emotional complexity of breakfast. May watches you eat with the stern satisfaction of a queen feeding her court. You ask if she's seen any good umbrellas today. She leans in and whispers like it's a state secret. Stall 13, purple canopy, smells like paint and regret. You'll love it. You thank her. She shoos you off with a flick of her fan. As you follow the path deeper into the market, the smells become more layered. Cooked sugar, sandalwood, wet paper, roasted peanuts. It's less of a scent and more like a soft, edible cloud you could nap inside. And then, you hear it. A gentle rustling, like 1,000 birds preening. The Parasol Workshop. You find it behind a screen of woven reeds, where 4 artisans sit cross-legged on straw mats, assembling umbrellas like they're performing slow-motion surgery. The air is thick with steam. A bamboo steamer puffs gently in the corner, loosening the wood into pliable, curved frames. A woman with steady hands glues thin, oiled paper over the ribs, smoothing each edge with a brush made of squirrel tail. Every umbrella is different. Some are painted with cherry blossoms. Others have clouds, cranes, or strange geometric spirals that seem to shift when you blink. A boy no older than 10 holds up a finished one and twirls it. The paper shimmers in the morning light, throwing flickers of blue and gold on the ground. You whisper, "That's beautiful." He shrugs. "It's just to keep off the rain." That's the kind of poetic detachment that would make any Instagram poet weep. The head artisan, a man with a long scar down his arm and a laugh like sandpaper, tells you they've been making umbrellas here for 3 generations. Maybe 4, he adds. We lost count during the termite incident of 48. You ask what makes a good umbrella. Balance, he says. Not just weight, spirit. You nod as if that makes sense. It doesn't, but it feels true. One of the umbrellas has a name burned into the handle. Siraporn. You ask about it. The artisan grins. She was my wife. Left me for a candle maker. Said I was too shady. You groan. He laughs harder. Before you go, the boy offers you a tiny umbrella, barely bigger than your hand, painted with a sleepy-looking elephant. For your dreams, he says. You tuck it into your sash like a talisman. Outside, the market is starting to swell. Footsteps, voices, the hollow clack of chopsticks on bowls. Someone plays a bamboo flute out of tune, but with enough heart to forgive it. And as you head toward the next cluster of stalls, you notice something odd. A tall man in a dusty white suit, sketching furiously in a leather-bound book. A hat droops low over his eyes, and a string of French curses trail from his lips. You smile, because this market is about to get even more interesting. You sidle a little closer to the man in white, pretending to inspect a basket of dried shrimp while absolutely eavesdropping like it's your full-time profession. He's muttering to himself in French, something about perspective, pigment, and why does everything smell like coconut? Which, to be fair, is a valid question. He's tall, with a sketchbook that looks like it was rescued from a shipwreck, and a mustache that could probably hold its own conversation. The market seems mildly offended by his presence. Not hostile, just amused. You pretend to bump into him. He jumps, nearly dropping his book, and you both go through the awkward international dance of, "No, I'm sorry," in 2 languages neither of you speak well. Finally, you point at his sketch of a half-finished parasol with a lotus pattern and raise your eyebrows. He grins sheepishly and says, "I try to capture it, but your umbrellas, they move too much." You look at the page again. He's not wrong. Even on paper, the umbrellas seem restless, like they might float away if you stare too hard. It's probably the humidity. He introduces himself as Jean-Baptiste. You nod like you'll remember that. You won't. Jean-Baptiste is apparently here on assignment, although he never explains what that means. You suspect it's just French for, "I wanted an excuse to wear this hat." You ask if he's ever seen paper dyed purple with indigo and mangosteen rinds. His eyes widen. Is that legal? You point him towards stall 13, May's whispered recommendation, and tell him to ask for the one that smells like regret. He thanks you in mangled Thai, bows at the wrong angle, and disappears into the crowd like a baguette in a rice field. You continue walking, and the crowd flows around you. Some people walk like water, some like falling coconuts. Everyone has a rhythm. Yours is somewhere between sleepwalker and retired duck. Suddenly, a bell chimes nearby, soft and hollow, the kind that suggests something official is about to happen. People clear a narrow path. A man walks through the market like he owns time itself. He's dressed in deep royal blue, with a gold sash that reflects enough sunlight to fry small insects. His shoes do not touch puddles. They hover. Probably. This is the Emperor's inspector. You have no idea what he inspects. No one does. But every few weeks he shows up, walks through the stalls, sniffs things, and makes notes in a ledger no one has ever seen open. Today, he stops in front of a stall selling parasols painted with koi fish. He picks one up, examines the stitching, sniffs the handle, and then taps it gently 3 times. The vendor looks like she might pass out. The inspector gives a tiny nod, then continues walking. At one point, he stops to sniff a bowl of curry paste. He sneezes, makes a mark in his book, moves on. No one knows what that means. You try to blend in by holding a random object and looking thoughtful. You grab a bunch of lemongrass and pretend it's a flute. He doesn't even glance your way. You feel both relieved and mildly insulted. As he disappears into the crowd, you hear someone behind you sigh. At least he didn't confiscate the umbrellas this time. You turn around. It's a woman wearing an apron made of repurposed parasol scraps. She's selling bundles of coconut handles next to a sign that says, "Guaranteed not to snap in half, probably." She notices you noticing the sign. "You'd be surprised," she says. "Last year, someone made umbrella handles out of cassava. Looked great. Lasted 6 hours." You ask how people decide which handles to use. She leans in like she's about to reveal state secrets. "It's about the sound," she says. "Tap it against your teeth. If it sings, it's a keeper." You politely decline to test that method yourself. The woman offers you 2 handles to compare, one made of coconut wood, the other of bamboo cured in rice wine. You hold them both. The coconut one is warm, solid, humble. The bamboo one feels slippery, sly, like it has opinions. "Bamboo's prettier," she says, "but it lies." You buy the coconut one. She throws in a discount because you have sad shoulders. As you thank her and tuck the handle under your arm, you notice a small group gathered ahead. There's murmuring, a hush, a competitive energy brewing. You step closer and see 2 umbrella vendors standing across from each other, their wares stacked high and colorful behind them. One is tall and thin with impossibly good posture. The other is rounder, sweatier, and has a voice like fried garlic. They bow to each other dramatically. And then, they begin. The umbrella duel. Now it's not what you think. There's no violence, no drama, just technique. First, the tall vendor opens a parasol in one fluid motion, spins it on one finger, and tosses it in the air where it lands, perfectly upright, on its handle. The crowd murmurs. Then the round vendor pops open 2 parasols at once, spins them in opposite directions, and balances them on his knees while whistling a traditional lullaby off-key. People gasp. A judge appears. You're not sure who appointed her, but she's wearing a vest made of raffle tickets, so clearly she has authority. She strokes her chin, points at the round vendor, and declares, "Too much showmanship, not enough fold." The duel continues. Each umbrella is opened, spun, folded, and presented with increasing flair. One of them even uses a foot. You lean on a crate of turmeric, utterly transfixed. A baby beside you claps. You clap too. You're both in awe. Finally, after a complicated sequence involving one umbrella, a chicken, and a fan, the judge raises her hand. "Draw," she says. The vendors bow. The crowd cheers. A child throws a flower. You walk away beaming. Because in this market, even the competitions are sleepy, beautiful nonsense. After the umbrella duel, the market settles into a gentle lull, like it collectively remembered it had no deadlines. The air thickens. The light tilts ever so slightly, casting sleepy gold over everything. Even the birds seem less committed to flight. Your stomach grumbles, softly but persuasively. Time for a proper snack. You follow the scent of grilled banana and something vaguely resembling toasted dreams until you arrive at a food stall that looks like it was assembled entirely from leftover fishing boats. A large iron griddle hisses as a woman flips mango-stuffed rice cakes with the precision of a surgeon and the apathy of someone who's seen too much. Her name is Noi. Everyone knows her. No one knows her age. She claims to be 35. Her elbows say 80. Her cooking says eternal. You order a plate and she gives you a look that says, "You should have been here earlier." But she serves you anyway. You sit on an upturned basket and eat in silence. The rice cakes are warm and slightly crisp at the edges, the mango inside just ripe enough to taste like childhood and forgiveness. A cat wanders by and eyes your plate. You eye it back. A truce is silently established. While you chew, a young man walks by carrying what appears to be an entire tree of bananas balanced on his shoulder and humming a lullaby in perfect falsetto. He nods. You nod. The cat nods. It's a very respectful moment. Refreshed, you wander toward the quieter edge of the market where the sun is filtered through old fabric and woven shade screens. Here, the parasols hang like drying fruit, rows of them, suspended by strings, spinning lazily in the breeze. And just beyond them, a circle of people, mostly older, sitting on woven mats and swaying ever so slightly. You pause. Music? No, not quite. It's rhythm. A slow, deliberate stomping of feet on cloth, hands rising and falling like reeds in wind. Parasols twirling in slow arcs above heads, tilting with the motion of shoulders. You've stumbled into a rain dance rehearsal. It's not the thunder-summoning, cloud-commanding type you'd expect from myths. No one's in feathers. No one's yelling at the sky. This one is polite, elegant. A group of rice farmers practicing for the annual monsoon welcome ritual. They move with the kind of slowness that suggests they're either extremely graceful or extremely sleepy. Possibly both. Each dancer carries a parasol, some open, some half-folded. They move in a circle, mimicking the spiral of storm clouds, stepping on patterns dyed into cloth with turmeric and charcoal. An elder, shirtless, sun-leathered, and wearing a sarong so faded it's practically a rumor, sits to the side, keeping time with a hollow gourd drum and a face that hasn't blinked since you arrived. You find yourself swaying, just a little. The rhythm seeps into your spine, replacing your usual internal monologue with something that sounds suspiciously like a lullaby. Someone hands you a spare parasol. You don't ask, you just take it. Your entrance into the dance is not graceful. You almost poke a man in the eye during your first rotation. He laughs. You apologize. He says, "Happens every year." Eventually, you find a rhythm. Step, step, turn, raise, lower. The parasol spins above your head like a lazy planet, shading you from nothing in particular, but feeling entirely necessary. Someone chants softly about the wet season's arrival, but you can't catch all the words. They slip through the air like dragonflies, brief and golden. After several rotations, the dancers step back, bow to one another, and collapse onto mats with audible sighs. You do the same. A cup of cool pandan tea is handed to you. No words, just a smile and hydration. You sip, grateful. As you sit, still catching your breath, a small boy approaches with a bag of something green and glistening. He offers you one. You hesitate. "It's sweet," he says. You pop it in your mouth. It's not sweet. It's aggressively herbal. The boy grins and runs away. You've been pranked by a child with candy from the underworld. You chase the flavor down with the rest of your pandan tea and consider making better decisions in the future. But that sounds like work. The gourd drum starts again. This time it's slower, sleepier. A few people begin weaving the edges of parasols with colored thread, murmuring gossip as they go. One woman says the inspector once tripped on a chicken. Another claims Jean-Baptiste tried to pay for an umbrella with cheese. The parasols they work on aren't for sale. These are for ceremony, used only once a year, then stored in clay jars until the next season. Keeps the spirits calm, someone explains, and the mold away. You ask if you can help. They hand you a needle, already threaded. You jab your finger instantly. The woman next to you laughs so hard she snorts. You laugh too, and continue stabbing fabric with the enthusiasm of a well-meaning amateur. The sun has shifted again. You can tell because the shadows now lean in the other direction, and the cat you met earlier has relocated its nap spot exactly 4 inches west. A woman nearby hums a tune so soft you wonder if it's meant only for her hands. She's embroidering tiny cranes onto the cloth, each bird smaller than your fingernail. You realize something, sitting there under the parasols. Nothing urgent has happened today. And that might be the point. Because in this little corner of the umbrella market, where people dance slowly and embroider slower, where rice cakes are currency and gossip is soft as thread, time is something you wear loosely, like a well-loved sarong. You're not sure how long you've been sitting under that parasol canopy. 10 minutes? 40? A gentle eternity. All you know is your legs have fallen asleep, and so has your sense of responsibility. You stand, stretch, and hear your knees make a sound like someone opening a bamboo drawer. A nearby grandfather nods in solidarity. You are now kin. Back in the main corridor, the market has thickened like a stew left to simmer. Stalls hum with chatter. Umbrellas bob in every direction. It's a soft kind of busy, like everyone's rushing, but only in the way clouds rush. And then you hear it. A commotion. Soft gasps, the sound of a woven basket hitting the ground. One woman clutches her parasol like it just confessed to a crime. You edge closer. Something's happened near the lacquerware stand. There's a boy, maybe 12, maybe ageless, no shoes, no guilt. He stands with his arms crossed while 2 vendors yell at him in stereo. They're pointing at a box of umbrella handles, one of which is missing a button. Apparently, he took it. Not the whole umbrella, just the button. You try to imagine what desperate circumstances would compel someone to steal a button. Then again, you once faked a back injury to get out of folding laundry. So who are you to judge? The crowd waits for drama. But instead of punishment, something odd happens. The vendor sighs. Buttons again, she says. Last week it was tassels. Turns out, this isn't a first offense. The boy has been stealing ornamentation. Small parts, nothing valuable. Decorative things. Things no one needs, but everyone notices when they're gone. Someone asks, why just the buttons? No one knows. Maybe it's a collection. Maybe he's building the world's slowest umbrella from scraps. Maybe he just likes the click they make in his pocket. The vendors debate what to do. The boy looks bored. And then, May appears. You don't know where she came from. No one ever does. She emerges from the crowd like a monsoon thought bubble and plants herself between the vendors and the accused. He's not stealing, she says. He's curating. Everyone pauses. May turns to the boy. Are you making something? He shrugs. She pulls a jar of dried hibiscus from her bag and hands it to him. Use this instead. No one misses dried petals. He takes it, looks confused, then smiles. The vendors blink, shrug, and return to their stalls. The crowd disperses with the disappointed energy of people denied a scandal. May turns to you and says, "Sometimes it's easier to redirect a river than stop it." You nod, because honestly, you just like agreeing with her. The boy walks away, tossing a hibiscus petal in the air like it's currency in a better world. You continue your stroll through the now settling market. Something catches your eye. A glimmer of color from a nearby stall, tucked between a stack of flattened parasols and a basket of paintbrushes. It's the dye vendor. A tall, thin man with streaks of purple and red up both arms, standing beside vats of swirling liquid that shimmer like oil spilled on silk. The air around him smells of berries, ash, and ambition. You lean over a vat and peer in. The surface ripples with a dark indigo so deep it looks like you could fall in and emerge a different person. Careful, the man says. She bites. You blink. The dye. No, he says, deadpan. The vat itself. You're not sure if he's joking, so you nod like you've understood ancient alchemy and step back respectfully. He explains that the umbrellas in this section are all dyed by hand, using mixtures passed down through family lines and closely guarded like curry recipes. Some involve crushed bark, others rely on fermented tea leaves. One, his prized blend, uses mangosteen rinds, beetle spit, and just a whisper of charcoal. You ask what color that makes. He says, regret. You ask if that's like a shade of blue. Depends on who's holding it, he replies. You consider buying some regret. He offers you a test strip. It stains your fingers with the exact color of a memory you didn't know you missed. In the back of the stall, another artisan paints parasol panels with tiny scenes. Women grinding herbs, monks playing chess, elephants walking in single file across a bridge that seems too delicate to exist. Each panel is part of a larger story, but none of them match. When you ask why, the painter shrugs. Life's like that. He hands you one, unfinished, and says, "You look like someone who needs a cliffhanger." You're not sure if it's a compliment, but you accept it. You exit the dye stall with stained fingers, a half-painted parasol panel, and the sensation that you've just been through art therapy in a steam bath. Nearby, Jean-Baptiste is back. He's holding 3 umbrellas and looking morally compromised. Which one says, "Diplomat who dances?" he asks. You point to the red one with lotus petals. That one. He beams. You understand me. You really don't, but it's been a weird hour. You walk together toward a tea stall that smells like melted sugar and bureaucracy. He buys you a cup as thanks and pulls out his sketchbook. Inside, he's drawn the market, but it's off. The parasols are floating. The bridge is missing. The vendors are birds. You ask if that's on purpose. Memory is a liar, he says. So I help it lie better. You sip your tea and wonder if the hibiscus thief is out there somewhere, building an umbrella of petals and stolen buttons. If so, you hope it flies. The tea has a calming effect, like a polite ghost sitting on your chest. Just enough pressure to remind you to relax, not enough to haunt. It's warm, too sweet, with a strange aftertaste that makes your teeth feel like they've been politely brushed by silk. Jean-Baptiste has wandered off again, presumably to sketch something that doesn't exist yet. You're left standing near a row of woven baskets, some filled with pomelos, others filled with what might be pomelos, or possibly handcrafted helmets. It's unclear. You meander toward the northern edge of the market, where the parasols thin out and the sun drips through wooden latticework in long, sleepy lines. You turn a corner, and there it is. The sign is handwritten, lopsided, and wildly optimistic. Umbrellas that withstood the monsoon of '63, mostly. Two men stand behind the stall, deep in debate. One is rail-thin, like a bundle of cinnamon sticks tied together with optimism. The other has the solid roundness of a well-fed kettle and a face that says, "I once argued with a cow and lost." They're arguing about coconut handles again. You ease closer, pretending to inspect a stack of parasol tops painted with flowers that suspiciously resemble fried eggs. The thin one points at a coconut-handled umbrella and says, "This one was in Ayutthaya during the flood. It was used to paddle a child to safety." The round one scoffs. "And I suppose it dried the child off afterward." The thin one shrugs. "That's what I heard." The round one counters with a story about an umbrella used in a duel. Not the spin and fold kind you saw earlier, but an actual umbrella duel over mango rights. "One strike," he says, "and the handle didn't even crack." You wonder aloud, were the mangoes okay? They both turn to you. "No," they say in perfect unison. A moment of silence for the fallen fruit. Then, they invite you to try the merchandise yourself. You lift an umbrella. It's lighter than expected, perfectly balanced, and smells faintly of roasted peanuts and lacquer. "Tap it," the round one says. You gently knock the handle against the stall's bamboo frame. Again, firmer. You give it a decent thwack. The umbrella vibrates with a deep, satisfying thumb, like a drum played underwater. Both men nod approvingly. "That's the sound of quality," says the thin one. "That's the sound of minor structural instability," mutters the round one. You ask which umbrellas are truly the best in the market. They lean in conspiratorially, lowering their voices. "There's a woman," the round one says. "3 alleys down, sells only on cloudy days. Umbrellas so light they float. But also," adds the thin one, "so fragile they once dissolved in fog." You thank them, promising to look into the floating fog umbrellas later, though you suspect it's one of those stories told to tourists who ask too many questions. As you leave, they're already mid-argument again, this time about the proper number of ribs an umbrella should have. The round one insists on 12. The thin one insists on 6 and a prayer. You stroll past a row of sleeping dogs, bellies skyward, tongues lolling, as you head deeper into the quieter part of the market. Here, the umbrellas are hung higher, displayed more like art than merchandise. And that's where you see it. A parasol, open but upside down, hanging from the ceiling like a jellyfish. It's painted in swirls of white and blue, with tiny silver accents that catch the light just enough to sparkle without showing off. A sign beneath it reads, "Weather permitting, I will tell you a story." There's no vendor, no explanation, just the parasol. Spinning slowly, its shadow dancing over your face like flickering memories. You wait. Nothing happens. Then, out of nowhere, a man appears beside you. He's barefoot, wearing a sash covered in faded ink stains and a hat made from banana leaves that screams both eccentric artist and please don't ask for change. He says, "It's not ready to talk yet." You blink. "Excuse me?" "The parasol," he explains. "She only speaks when the wind is curious." You nod, pretending that's a normal thing to say. He tells you he's a storyteller, retired, Used to perform under the parasol before the rain washed the stage away. Now he just listens. You ask if he misses telling stories. He shrugs. Some days. But mostly I enjoy watching people wait for something magical, and then realize the waiting was the magic. You try not to cry. He wanders off, leaving you under the spinning parasol. And you wait, just a little longer. And though it never speaks, not in words, you feel something anyway. A soft shift, a breeze where there wasn't one before. The faint scent of jasmine and wet parchment. And in that moment, it feels like the umbrella is holding you, not the other way around. You continue walking. The crowd thickens again as you round a bend and find a shaded alley filled with paper parasols in various states of decay. Some are crumpled like forgotten poems. Others are folded perfectly but missing handles, tassels, or both. A sign reads, "The Parasol Hospital. Restoration while you wait. Very slowly." A woman with a monocle and exactly one eyebrow looks up from a dissected umbrella. "Need something patched?" she asks. You hand her the tiny elephant parasol the boy gave you earlier. She examines it like a jeweler, assessing a flawed diamond. "It has charm," she says, "and mild abandonment issues." She pulls out a tin of glue, a brush made from her own hair, and a spool of golden thread that shimmers like a noodle dream. You watch her stitch, dab, and twist with movements so precise it feels like a ritual. While she works, she tells you the umbrella once belonged to a monk who believed elephants could speak and used it as shade while waiting for one to say hello. "Did it?" you ask. She nods. Of course not, but he enjoyed the waiting. You're sensing a theme. She finishes the repair with a flourish and hands it back. Now it's ready to remember. You thank her. She doesn't charge you. "I never charge for dreams," she says, adjusting her monocle with a wink. You walk away holding the tiny umbrella, slightly mended, slightly magical, and somehow everything feels lighter, even you. Back in the sun again, you shield your eyes with the tiny elephant parasol, which does very little in terms of actual shade, but offers immense emotional support. The air has shifted. It's warmer now, softer. The kind of heat that makes you walk slower, think slower, and question whether you truly need both shoes on. You wander past a stall selling carved soap in the shape of angry vegetables, and another offering fortune scrolls tied with lemongrass ribbon. A woman tries to convince a reluctant goat to wear a hat. The goat wins. You drift, following no particular scent or sound, until you reach a stall nestled between two leaning walls that probably weren't built by professionals. A handmade banner overhead reads, "Umbrellas with stories. Ask before you touch." You're intrigued. You've never met a parasol with a backstory. The vendor is a wiry man with ink-stained fingers and the expression of someone who has recently witnessed a spectacular argument about pickled radishes. He greets you with a slow bow and gestures at the display. Each umbrella is tagged with a short note, used in a marriage proposal that worked too well. Sheltered 3 cats and 1 emperor from the same storm. Folded during a moment of deep embarrassment, still blushing. You point to one with faded cherry blossoms. He clears his throat and says, "This one belonged to a poet who believed walking without an umbrella made your thoughts evaporate." You ask if that's true. He shrugs. He published 1 book, then got sunstroke. You pick up another, painted with goldfish, some of which seem to be swimming upstream despite gravity. "This one," the vendor says, "was left behind by a noblewoman who ran away to become a noodle vendor. She's happier now." He hands you a third, pale green with delicate brushwork. "That one's quiet, doesn't like crowds." You hold it gently. It does feel shy. You put it back with care. Then you see the umbrella. It It's large, made of deep crimson paper with black ribs and a handle wrapped in velvet. It's gorgeous and slightly intimidating. The tag reads, "Used during the monsoon wedding tragedy of '79. Please whisper." Naturally, you whisper, "What happened?" The vendor leans in. "Too many desserts, not enough dancing. The umbrellas had to carry the emotional weight." You leave a coin in the small lacquered bowl on the table and thank him. He nods once, solemnly. Stories stay better when borrowed gently. Down the next alley, you stumble upon a stall with no sign. Just a child sitting cross-legged on the ground, surrounded by umbrellas that don't open. They're beautiful, even in their disrepair. Some folded forever, others half-ripped or bent like they got into arguments with the wind and lost. You ask if the umbrellas are broken. The child shakes her head. Sleeping. You crouch beside her. Can they wake up? She nods. Only if they dream loud enough. You stare at one that's been painted with a spiral of moons. You swear you can hear it breathing. The child offers you a brush and a dish of water. Draw something. You hesitate, then make a tiny swirl in the corner of one umbrella. It looks like a snail or a lost comma. The child claps. Now it remembers you. You leave feeling like you've just become an ancestor in a very small way. Further down, the sounds shift again. Not louder, just sharper. You follow them to a small square where several vendors are gathered around a central figure. He's young, maybe late teens, with a pile of folded umbrellas beside him, and the sort of wild-eyed intensity normally reserved for mad inventors or people who think limes are a personality. He's folding umbrellas. Rapidly, methodically, each one with a precision that borders on reverence. Open, twist, collapse, tie, open, twist, collapse, tie. You learn his name is Somchai, and today he's attempting to break a local record. 100 perfectly folded umbrellas before the market bell rings for evening prayers. He's on umbrella number 74. No wasted motion, no talking. Just the sound of fabric sighing and the occasional grunt of triumph. People cheer softly, but no one is rowdy. This is a sacred task. You offer him water. He shakes his head. No time. Must fold. He gets to umbrella 82 and pauses. It's slightly warped. A challenge. He breathes. You hold your breath. He folds it. It resists. He folds harder. Finally, click. It's done. The crowd exhales. By umbrella 94, his fingers are trembling. Someone fans him with a large banana leaf. Another person wipes his brow with a cloth that may or may not have once been a sock. Then, with the grace of a dancer and the calm of someone folding time itself, he completes number 100. The market erupts in applause that still sounds like a gentle breeze through paper. He stands, bows, smiles a tired smile, then promptly falls asleep on the pile of umbrellas he just folded. Someone places a rice cake near his head like an offering. You smile and walk away, wondering if his dreams are shaped like spinning parasols. As the market edges toward its drowsier hours, you feel it too, the tilt of the day, the pull of rest. You pause beneath a hanging curtain of mosquito netting, where an old man is dozing in a chair, mouth open, umbrella balanced on his lap like a lazy sword. A sign around his neck reads, "Professional Napper. Tips welcome." You drop a coin in his basket. The nap doesn't begin, but it definitely winks at you. The napper snores once, softly, like the market itself sighing through his nose, and it echoes down the alley with surprising dignity. You tiptoe away, trying not to wake him, or the small lizard curled on his sandal like a footguard. The late afternoon sun has tilted, pouring through the slats in rooftops like syrup, warm and slow. Everything is golden now. People, Umbrellas, even the occasional pigeon looks like it's been lacquered. You pass a group of women sitting cross-legged on woven mats, threading strings through paper parasols with the intensity of secret agents diffusing a papery bomb. Their fingers move fast, tying tassels, painting borders, whispering to one another like the umbrellas might hear them. You linger. One of them, a woman with a gap-toothed grin and forearms like braided rope, gestures for you to join. She slides over a parasol and a brush and says, "Make it ugly." You blink. "Ugly," she nods. "Beauty is for beginners. Ugly means you tried." You hesitate, then dip the brush into a bowl of dark green dye and paint. A lopsided cat, possibly a dragon, maybe a mango. The women nod, approving. Another says, "Mine looks like my cousin's ex-husband." They all laugh like it's the best compliment in the world. As you decorate your modest disaster, a tiny bell chimes near your elbow. You look down. It's a girl, maybe 5. She's holding a parasol made entirely of dried noodles. You blink. She nods solemnly. "For my dolly." The parasol is ridiculous and brilliant. The noodles are lacquered and twisted into spirals. There's even a meatball dangling from the end like a charm. You ask if the dolly is nearby. She says no. The dolly is very busy with business. You say, "I get that." The noodle parasol girl hands you a petal from a fabric flower and says it's a lucky coupon. For what? She doesn't explain. You tuck it into your sash anyway. The sun dips further, and the vendors begin their slow afternoon shuffle, adjusting awnings, sipping from coconut shells, sweeping away mango pits with foot-long brooms made of peacock feathers. Some start singing old songs, their melodies wandering lazily through the air like kites that forgot how to land. That's when you spot it. A cart. No sign, no prices. Just an elderly man pushing it gently through the crowd, his sandals making no sound, his face set in the kind of smile that could disarm a grumpy turtle. The cart contains umbrellas. But not just any umbrellas. These are strange. One has feathers sewn into the edges. Another has tiny bells hanging from every rib. A third has holes punched through the top in the shape of constellations. You're too curious not to approach. The man nods at you, doesn't speak. You point to the star umbrella. He gestures. Hold it up to the sky. You do. The sunlight passes through the punched holes and projects tiny stars across your face, your arms, the ground. A child nearby squeals in delight and starts chasing constellations like butterflies. The man finally speaks. "Umbrellas for other purposes." You raise an eyebrow. He points to another umbrella, this one with mirrors on the underside. "That one," he says, "is for remembering who you were." You chuckle. "Heavy." He shrugs. "Lighter than guilt." You ask how much they cost. He shakes his head. "These are not sold." You offer a coin. He pushes it back gently. "They're borrowed. For moments." You realize he's right. None of these umbrellas are meant to keep off rain. They're not practical, not fashionable, but they carry something. Memory, magic, maybe even a little mischief. You ask if you can borrow one. He nods. "Pick with your heart, not your hand." You reach out toward the umbrella with the bells. But at the last second, your fingers twitch toward another. It's plain. Soft gray, almost forgettable. But the handle is carved with waves. You lift it. It feels correct. The man bows. That one listens well. You thank him and continue your walk, the umbrella whispering against your shoulder with every step, not speaking, just reminding you it's there. Around the next bend, you find a gathering crowd. A late delivery has arrived, from Chiang Mai, the mountain city. Everyone murmurs in anticipation as 2 men unload a cart covered with a thick cotton tarp. When they pull it back, a hush falls. Inside, umbrellas. Dozens. All unlike anything in the market. Their fabric is deep navy, almost black, embroidered with silver threads in the shapes of birds and clouds and forgotten alphabets. The handles are carved from dark wood, twisted like tree roots. Some smell faintly of pine and altitude. One has feathers tucked into its ribs, another glints as if dusted with frost. A vendor whispers, "Made during the fog festival, only open at dawn." You watch as people approach, reverently. No one touches. They just look. Even Jean-Baptiste, who reappears out of nowhere like an art-obsessed squirrel, is speechless. He sketches quietly, mouthing words like sublime and scandalously serene. The umbrellas stay in the cart, too precious for the sun. You glance down at your own, soft gray, understated, still whispering. And you feel content. Because sometimes the best umbrella is the one that doesn't try too hard. You step back, let the crowd admire, and wander toward the final stretch of the market where the melon seller waits with slices chilled over ice and paper umbrellas tucked behind his ear like forgotten punctuation. But that's for later. For now, you walk slower. The bells on someone else's umbrella jingle gently as they pass. Yours remains silent, listening, as always. You're almost at the end of the market loop now, past the umbrella hospital, the feather duelists, the storyteller's ghost parasol. The air is softer here, drowsier, as if even the breeze has decided to sit down for a rest. Your feet ache in that oddly satisfying way, like they've earned the right to complain. The tiny umbrella with the elephant still rides proudly in your sash, now joined by a lucky petal, one regret-colored stain, and a growing suspicion that you may never find your way out of this market. And that's perfectly fine. Ahead of you, a man with a cart, or perhaps a cart with a man. It's hard to tell which came first. His cart is mismatched and absurd. Wheels from a bicycle, handles made of broomsticks, and what looks like an old xylophone welded to one side. But on it, a modest pyramid of umbrellas. Not fancy, not embroidered, just honest. He waves. You wave back. "Looking for something in particular?" he asks. You say no, just browsing. He nods. That's what most people say before they fall in love with a soggy umbrella. You raise an eyebrow. He pulls one out. It's leaning, frayed at the edges, and has a small hole in the top, shaped vaguely like a shrimp. You've seen garden hats with more structural integrity. He says, "Found this one near a canal. Still opens, still closes, still dreams." You take it. It opens with a hiccup and a groan, but it works. The paper feels soft, like it's been rained on 100 times, and now has opinions about the weather. You test it above your head. A shaft of late sunlight pierces through the shrimp hole and lands on your nose. The man grins. Fate. You pay him in a coin, a petal, and a smile. He pockets them all like rare currency. "Most umbrellas," he says, "keep out the rain, but a few, they let the world in, just enough." You thank him. He nods once and vanishes into the crowd like a paper crane folded into a breeze. With your new acquisition, Soggy the umbrella, you head toward the melon seller's stall. You've seen it from a distance all day, a neat display of round, glossy fruit stacked with the kind of precision usually reserved for crown jewels and extremely passive-aggressive Jenga tournaments. The melon seller is an older man, possibly carved from driftwood, with a smile that says he knows 3 very good jokes and 1 extremely useful secret. You point at a wedge already cut and cooling on a slab of ice. He hands it to you silently, watching with pride as you take your first bite. It is sublime. Cold, crisp, just sweet enough. It tastes like someone told a cucumber to dream bigger. You groan softly in appreciation. He pats the slab like it's a trusted mule. Buried it in salt ice overnight, he says. Works better than prayer. You nod through another bite. The melon seller has a parasol too. Paper, plain, beige, with one hand-drawn fish on it. Just one. Swimming in the wrong direction. You ask about it. He shrugs. A mistake, but I liked it. He offers you a second slice. You accept it without hesitation or dignity. While you chew, he tells you stories. Brief, meandering ones that barely have beginnings and mostly forget to end. One about a monk who used his umbrella to shade a fig tree for a year until it bloomed out of sheer politeness. Another about a pair of lovers who painted each other's parasols in secret, only to find out both had drawn goats. You ask if the stories are true. He grins. Would it matter if they weren't? You think about that. You finish your melon. The sun is beginning its slow bow behind the rooftops, casting long shadows and warm gold on the stalls. People start packing up, slowly, lovingly, like they're tucking in old friends for the night. Umbrellas are folded one by one. Handles are counted. Threads are coiled. A child runs by holding two halves of a parasol like wings. The air hums with the low murmur of farewells and inventory. You stand near the bridge again, back where your journey began, and look across the fading market. Its smells, its voices, its strange little stories floating like incense in the twilight. You realize you haven't bought a proper umbrella all day. And you don't care. Because in your hands, you now hold three treasures. A tiny elephant parasol given freely by a child. A gray umbrella that listens. And Soggy, who leaks sunlight through his shrimp-shaped scar. You watch the vendors gather for the final ritual of the day. No drum, no trumpet. Just a soft bell rung 3 times from the heart of the square. People bow slightly, not to each other, to the umbrellas, to the sky, to the day itself. And then, just like that, the market exhales and sleeps. The market is no longer buzzing. It's breathing, deeply, softly, like a child curled up beneath a blanket, woven from jasmine and old receipts. The light fades further. Lanterns flicker to life, slowly, unevenly, as if each one is remembering why it exists. They cast warm halos over the now quiet stalls, where just hours ago people were arguing about tassels and mango rights with righteous intensity. You linger near the bridge, not quite ready to leave. The planks still creak in the wind, swaying slightly as if they too are swaddled in sleepiness. A firefly lands on the tip of Soggy's handle. It blinks once, then dozes off. You glance back toward the main square. There, where the noodle parasol girl had been holding court earlier, a circle of people is now forming. Not selling, not buying. Just gathering. You're drawn to it. They sit cross-legged in a slow spiral, some with parasols on their laps, some with teacups, some just holding their knees and looking up at the stars like they suspect those dots might have feelings. At the center, May. Of course. She sits on a low cushion, swaying slightly, fanning herself not for the heat, but for rhythm. She smiles when she sees you. You made it, she says. You nod. I think I was always going to. She gestures for you to sit. You do. The circle grows quiet, not with expectation, but invitation. May raises a hand and begins to speak. Her voice is soft, but it cuts through the night like a lullaby through warm rain. She tells a story, not from a book, not from history, but from the folds of her own life. About a boy who once tried to make a parasol out of spider webs. He believed they could catch light better than silk. He wasn't wrong, she says. Just a little early. Laughter ripples gently through the group. Someone else shares a story, then another. Tales of umbrellas used in weddings and funerals, duels and dances. Some are funny, some sweet. All are slow, all are sleepy. You offer one too, about a Frenchman with a sketchbook and a diplomat's parasol, about a boy who stole buttons and found hibiscus instead, about a shrimp-shaped hole that let the sky in. No one interrupts, no one corrects your details. Because in this place, stories are not for remembering, they're for resting inside. The lanterns sway overhead like they're listening too. After a while, the stories fade, not ending, just dissolving like sugar in tea. People rise in pairs or alone, whisper soft goodbyes, fold their parasols like blessings, and vanish into the velvet night. May stands last. She hands you something wrapped in waxed paper, a small square of sweet rice with toasted mung beans pressed into the top. "Breakfast," she says, "for tomorrow's memory." You thank her. She walks away barefoot, her parasol closed, the tip tapping gently on the path like a cane guiding a dream. You remain seated for a while, watching the last lantern flicker out. The stars take over. They don't twinkle here. They yawn. Eventually, you rise. You cross the bridge again. It sways. You don't mind. The gecko on your window is waiting, eyes half-lidded, like it's been monitoring your character development. You slide open your creaky door. Inside, your room is cooler now, touched by the breeze and the kind of quiet that knows all the words to an old lullaby, but hums it instead. You place your umbrellas gently in the corner, Soggy, Elephant, and the one that listens. You whisper a soft thank you to each. The parasol panel you never finished painting leans against the wall. The smear of green you made earlier has dried into something oddly comforting. You don't fix it. You lie down on the straw mat. Outside, the village is nearly silent, save for the soft sigh of a far-off drum, a yawn from a cow, and the delicate shh-shh of parasols being folded in distant hands. You close your eyes, and in the moment before sleep takes you, you feel it. That gentle tap on your shoulder. A folded thing, a spinning thing, a listening thing, keeping watch. You wake before the sun, not because you mean to, not because you're refreshed, just because the rooster is aggressively punctual and your window has no shame. You lie there for a moment, staring at the wooden beams above your head, listening to the world stretch itself awake. Somewhere nearby, someone is already pounding chili. Someone else sneezes. The gecko is gone, probably off to run errands or cause minor mischief. The parasols sit quietly in the corner, unmoved and somehow still dignified. You get up, your joints making a sound like respectful applause, and splash cool water on your face from a ceramic basin that always looks surprised to see you. Outside, the alley smells like wet stone and ambition. You wander barefoot, your sarong tied with yesterday's accuracy, and head back toward the bamboo bridge. The market won't be open yet, but you're not going for the stalls. You're going for the builders. Most visitors don't know about them. They arrive too late, distracted by parasols and snacks and moderately cursed souvenirs. But the market doesn't appear out of nowhere each day. It's grown, gently, carefully, by the quietest group of heroes you've never thanked. You arrive just in time to see them at work. They move like shadows. Barefoot. Focused. Speaking only when necessary, and even then in tones low enough to make moths jealous. One woman secures a canopy with loops of twine, pulling just tight enough to hold, not tear. A man next to her rearranges bamboo poles until the angle catches the light just right. No one uses nails, just knots, hooks, and a level of teamwork usually only seen in synchronized swimming or particularly cooperative sandwiches. You recognize some of them from yesterday. They were vendors too, or dancers. Or maybe they were pretending to be vendors and dancers just to confuse you. One notices you watching and waves you over. You shuffle up, trying not to disrupt the harmony. He hands you a cord and points at a half-assembled stall frame. You tie the knot. Poorly. He fixes it. Silently. But not unkindly. They don't explain what to do. They just let you do it, correcting gently, laughing softly when your canopy ends up looking like a deflated jellyfish. You help unroll mats, stack baskets, reposition display tables. It's meditative, satisfying, like aligning the world one coconut fiber at a time. And all the while, the sky shifts from pewter to apricot to soft gold. The market stirs, not opens. Stirs, like a giant stretching under thin sheets. Vendors arrive with carts and crates, and the kind of energy reserved for early risers and extremely optimistic birds. They nod to the builders, swap gossip like currency, and begin decorating the bones you helped arrange. One stall hangs paper lanterns painted with sleepy frogs. Another sets out teacups like offerings. A third is entirely devoted to elaborately folded napkins that no one ever uses, but everyone respects. A small child walks past carrying a goose. You nod at the goose. The goose nods back. It's that kind of morning. You wander toward the tea stall again, drawn by the promise of something warm and herbal, and not at all demanding. The tea vendor greets you with a smile that suggests he's been waiting for your return since before time began. He pours you a cup without asking what you want. It tastes like an apology for all your past decisions. You sip slowly. He asks, "Did you dream?" You say yes, and that you think part of it might still be happening. He chuckles. Then the market did its job. You sit for a moment at one of the low tables, watching the world assemble itself from corners and colors. The parasol vendors begin unfurling their displays, carefully, deliberately, like opening poems line by line. One umbrella catches your eye. It's nothing special, just plain white, with a single blue dot near the center. But the way it opens, slow, smooth, with a faint whisper, feels like a memory you haven't had yet. You approach the vendor. She's folding ribbons with the precision of someone trained in crane origami. You ask about the blue dot parasol. She glances at it, then shrugs. It doesn't sell, but people always ask. You nod. You don't ask to buy it. You just look. She doesn't try to sell it. She just lets it be. And somehow that feels like the right answer. Around you, the market is almost fully awake now. Music begins, soft strings, a hollow drum beat, the click of wooden spoons against bowls. Not performance, just punctuation. Jean-Baptiste walks past, carrying a parasol like a torch. May is rearranging pickled mango with the seriousness of a military parade. The umbrella hospital is already treating two patients, one with a bent rib, another with an emotional crack. You feel the rhythm settle again. Not the noise, not the foot traffic. The rhythm, the hum beneath everything. You realize this market never ends. It only pauses, folds, waits, like an umbrella. You leave the tea stall with your belly full of warmth and your brain operating at a pleasant molasses speed. The market has officially returned to life, not in a rush, but in a confident saunter. Everything moves at the speed of thought right before a nap. As you re-enter the flow, you find yourself back in the parasol lane, where the fabric canopies sway gently overhead like colorful clouds with strong opinions. You pause in front of a stall decorated with pressed flowers and small wooden charms dangling like tiny dreams from string. A hand-lettered sign reads, "Umbrella Blessings. Choose one carefully, or let one choose you." The vendor is an older woman with a crown of jasmine tucked into her hair and a voice like a lullaby humming through cotton. She gestures to the rows of parasols. each with something tucked beneath its canopy. A scroll, a ribbon, a tiny pouch. A riddle? Possibly a riddle. You pick one at random. She shakes her head. No. Stand still. Let the right one find you. You freeze, unsure how umbrellas do the choosing. Then, as if on cue, one gently sways, just a bit more than the others. You blink. Is it the wind? She smiles. That one. You approach the umbrella. Pale orange, a soft, dusty color like sunset caught in linen. Tucked underneath is a folded scrap of paper, tied with a bit of twine. She unties it for you. Inside is a blessing, hand-painted in looping script. May you always fold your worries gently and hang them where they can dry. You nearly tear up. She hands you the umbrella, but not to buy, just to carry. Return it when the day is done, she says. Blessings are better when shared. You walk away, holding it like a secret. Down a quieter path, you notice a new sound. Light tapping, rhythmic, like a gentle typewriter operated by a sleepy bird. You follow it. Around the bend, you find a workshop made entirely of discarded umbrella parts, ribs, handles, spokes, scraps of faded fabric, all repurposed into what can only be described as umbrella art. There's a peacock made of parasol canopies, a wind chime made of old handles, a large wheel on the wall that spins, revealing a different painted story in each panel. The artist is a man with paint in his hair, and an apron that looks like it lost a duel with creativity. He's using a broken parasol as a stencil, dipping it in ink and pressing it onto a large sheet of mulberry paper. He looks up. You found the museum. You hadn't realized that's what this was. He gestures around. Umbrellas that were too broken to be fixed, so now they're remembered. You nod slowly, taking it all in. The room feels still, reverent, like a church built for drizzle. He shows you a panel depicting a woman shielding a baby elephant during a storm. Another of an old man using a parasol to cover a stray cat. Another with 3 friends sharing one umbrella, clearly not fitting under it, but trying anyway. Some of these are based on real moments, he says. Some, he grins. Some I just needed to believe in. You ask why umbrellas. He pauses, then says, because they're fragile, but we still take them into storms. You don't say anything. Just look at the wheel again, letting the stories turn slowly in front of you. Before you leave, he hands you a square of the mulberry paper. It's been printed with the panel of the cat under the umbrella. For your wall, he says. Or your window. Or your heart. You tuck it into your sash, where it immediately befriends the petal, the rice cake wrapper, and the shrimp hole umbrella. You head back into the sun, where the day is beginning to warm again. The market has picked up speed. Not much, just a notch. Enough for people to walk a little faster, shout a little louder, wave their fans with slightly more conviction. You spot the noodle parasol girl again. She's now upgraded to a double parasol dolly cart, pulled by a very sleepy chicken. She gives you a nod of approval. The chicken does not. Near the umbrella dual square, someone has set up a parasol portrait booth. For a small donation, they'll sketch you under your chosen umbrella in exaggerated style. Big heads, dramatic swirls, mysterious captions. You sit. The artist, barefoot, with a smudge of charcoal on their nose, asks, "Mood?" You say, gently triumphant. They nod and get to work. 5 minutes later, you're handed a piece of rice paper showing you mid-stride, parasol open, a storm of mangoes falling around you, a banner fluttering behind that reads, "Survivor of the Shrimp Hole." You pay double. There's laughter nearby. The duelists have returned, but this time they're teaching children to fold miniature parasols using candy wrappers and thumbtacks. One child folds theirs inside out and names it accident. The duelists declare it a victory. The sun climbs higher. The colors fade slightly. And still, the parasols spin. You drift along the edge of the market now, tracing the seam between motion and stillness. It's the time of day when shadows lean long, voices dip low, and everyone starts pretending they're not sleepy yet. You pass the melon stall again. The seller waves. You wave back. This time he's offering slices with chili salt. You make a mental note to be braver tomorrow. In a nearby corner, a group of elders has gathered around a table with a faded parasol stuck awkwardly into a clay pot for shade. They're playing a game that involves stones, coins, and possibly a duck feather. It's hard to tell. The rules change mid-turn. They argue with fierce affection. One man declares victory. The others groan. Then he hands out mango slices, and nobody complains. You sit nearby, not part of the game, but close enough to feel included. The parasol above their table is ancient. Faded pink, full of patches, the ribs repaired with mismatched thread. But it's the kind of umbrella that's seen generations and refuses to fall apart out of sheer stubbornness. Old umbrellas, one woman says, are like grandmothers, a little bent, but they know more than you. You nod, even though you suspect you're one umbrella metaphor away from becoming part of the furniture. Further down, a small stage has been set up, just a crate and some string lights powered by what looks like wishful thinking. A boy no older than 10 steps up and begins a shadow play using parasol silhouettes and paper puppets. He tells a story about a monkey who stole a parasol from the king and accidentally became queen. The audience laughs in the soft way that says, "We've all been that monkey." You stay until the end. There's no applause, just the quiet clatter of bamboo sticks and someone slipping the boy a snack. The sky shifts again. The clouds arrive, not dramatic, just thoughtful. They stretch over the rooftops like silk, brushing against the lanterns, whispering to the paper. Then, from the far end of the market, a hush. It's not silence. It's not alarm. It's anticipation. You follow the flow of people toward the center square, where a platform has been cleared and carpeted in woven mats and flower petals. May is there again, of course. She stands beneath a towering parasol painted in gold and red, large enough to shade a cart or a small philosophical debate. Beside her, a scroll. She unrolls it. The audience leans in. She begins to read. It's the annual inventory of the lost. A tradition in this market, she explains between lines. A reading of all the umbrellas that were misplaced, forgotten, or left behind in the last year. Not for punishment, not for retrieval, just for remembrance. Each name is read like a prayer. One blue parasol with 3 white dots and a poem stitched inside the hem. A yellow child's umbrella with a handle shaped like a frog, last seen during the mango parade. A folding parasol made from theater scripts, dropped during a dance contest nobody won. The list goes on. People nod. Some close their eyes. You feel strangely emotional, mourning umbrellas you never met. At the end, May lifts the scroll high and says, "We remember them. We release them." Everyone claps once. Then silence again. A small basket is passed around. Inside are paper strips. Everyone takes one. You do too. Yours reads, "Not all things folded are forgotten." You tuck it into your sash. The ceremony ends with a slow, elegant dance, performed under open parasols, each one held at a slight tilt, as if listening to the story still clinging to the air. Jean-Baptiste, standing at the edge of the crowd, sketches rapidly, his eyes shining like he's trying to trap magic on paper before it escapes. The music that follows is played on traditional instruments and what appears to be a tea kettle. No one questions it. You walk slowly now, body relaxed, brain warm. The parasols above you spin gently, casting dappled shadows over cobblestones, worn smooth by footsteps and time. You find a quiet bench beside a wall of flowering vines and sit. The elephant parasol leans against your shoulder. The shrimp-hole umbrella rests across your lap like a tired pet. The gray one, you've stopped calling it the one that listens. Now you just call it yours. A young vendor walks past and drops a flower in your hand without a word. You don't know why. You don't need to. The market isn't winding down yet, but it's humming in that key. That quiet frequency between activity and memory. People still wander, still trade, still chase one another with parasol shadows and laughter. But the day is changing. The light has gone from golden to velvet. And so have you. The bench beneath you is lopsided in that charming, spine-altering way that all old benches seem to be. One of the legs is shorter than the others, but a vendor has cleverly stuffed a folded lotus leaf underneath to compensate. The leaf is now dry, crisp, and wildly confident in its new structural role. You settle into the tilt, flower still in hand, as the lanterns above flicker on one by one, some shaped like birds, others like fish, and at least one that looks suspiciously like a confused potato. The parasols glow softly now, not lit, but luminous, reflecting the lantern's light like old friends retelling familiar stories. From your cozy vantage point, you watch as vendors begin switching to their evening stock. Morning tea is replaced by night tea. Spicy snacks give way to sticky rice sweets. Umbrella stalls now offer twilight shades and evening-only parasols that look suspiciously like the daytime ones, but come with more confident sales pitches. The air thickens with the scent of grilled coconut and sandalwood. A cat climbs onto a vendor table and is instantly crowned supervisor. No one argues. A bell chimes gently, not the official market bell, but a small personal one tied to a stall near the southern gate. You wander over. The stall is humble. No flashy signs, no singing paper cranes, just a single woven mat and 3 open parasols, each turned inside out. A sign reads, "Whisper exchange. Leave a thought. Take a thought." An old man sits cross-legged beside it. His eyes are half closed, not from sleep, but from habit. Like he's been meditating since the reign of a particularly relaxed king. He nods as you approach. You kneel beside one of the inside-out umbrellas. Inside it, folded slips of paper, each one no larger than a fingertip. You pick one. It reads, "I once lied to a mango. It forgave me." You snort softly. You're supposed to leave one in return. You pause. Then, using a stubby pencil and the back of an old melon receipt, you write, "I carried a shrimp-shaped hole through an entire day. It never let the light escape." You fold it gently, place it inside, and bow to the old man. He smiles, says nothing, and fans himself with a piece of cardboard that reads, "This is not a fan. This is persistence." The sky deepens. Blues and purples melt into one another. The occasional firefly blinks like a lantern with commitment issues. You pass by the umbrella dual square once more. It's been repurposed into a quiet lounge, where parasols are set upside down and filled with pillows, forming makeshift chairs. People lounge in them, sipping tea, trading recipes, and ranking the umbrellas of the day as if they were racehorses. You sit in one and instantly understand why this place remains undefeated in the World Championship of Comfy. A woman with bright eyes and an umbrella tattoo on her forearm leans over from the next parasol chair. "First day?" she asks. You nod. She says, "It only gets slower." You both laugh like that's the best possible outcome. She points upward, where a giant parasol is being hoisted into the air by pulleys and ropes. It's enormous, easily the size of a small boat, and painted with constellations that glow faintly in the dimming light. Evening shade, she says. Not for sun, for stars. You blink. What? She smiles. You'll see. As the parasol rises and locks into place, it casts a shadow that doesn't darken anything. Instead, it seems to cool the air, hush the wind, and slow the conversations beneath it by half a syllable per word. You look around. People walk slower. Laughter becomes more like a murmur. A child climbs into their parent's lap, chewing quietly on a sticky rice treat. Someone hums. You lean back, and in the glow of the starlit parasol, you feel time yawn and stretch and roll over in its sleep. The lounge begins a tradition no one planned. Parasol stories. Who had the lightest umbrella? The most dramatic? The one that collapsed mid-argument and diffused a fight? You hear one about an umbrella made from rice paper and regret, used by a fortune teller who never got a single prediction right, but was beloved anyway for her laugh. Another about a monk who built an umbrella from leaves during a vow of silence and used it to nod at people more politely. And one about a woman who carried her grandmother's parasol until it fell apart, then stitched the pieces into a prayer flag and hung it from a tree that never lost its leaves again. You add your own story about a boy who folded 100 umbrellas and slept for 100 minutes. The lounge approves. Someone brings out a tray of ginger candy. You chew slowly. Your chair parasol creaks contentedly. From somewhere in the market, a drum taps once, then twice. Not a warning, not a call, just punctuation. You sit in the warm shadow of the umbrella of stars, your body wrapped in the echo of gentle stories, your heart quietly unfurling like a parasol in spring. The parasol above you twinkles with constellations that never made it into proper star charts, like the crooked mango, the double-toed gecko, and the teacup that knew too much. You stare up at them, your neck at that perfect ache angle, just long enough to wonder why we don't make ceilings out of painted umbrellas more often. Probably gravity, definitely cost. Around you, the parasol lounge has melted into a soft tangle of limbs, fabric, and half-told stories. Some people have dozed off mid-sentence. Others hum or play quiet games of Name That Umbrella, where one person describes a parasol and the other has to guess what it's made from. Palm leaf, cassava glue, and hope. Bamboo ribs held together with marriage vows. Recycled prayer flags and unresolved emotions. You rise slowly, like bread left out too long. The parasol creaks as you leave it, then sighs back into shape like a content cat. You give it a little bow. It's earned it. The market has thinned, not emptied, never that. Just softened. Vendors pack up with choreographed grace, folding their umbrellas with quiet clicks and soft snaps. Each fold sounds like a whisper, a good night, a memory being tucked into the corner of a dream. You pass the whisper exchange again. The inside-out umbrellas are full now, stuffed with new secrets, confessions, and paper doodles of questionable ducks. The old man is asleep, still upright. His cardboard fan rests in his lap, proudly persistent. Further on, the Parasol Hospital glows with lamplight. One of the doctors is stitching an umbrella under magnifying lenses, strapped to her face, muttering, "This one has trauma in the ribs." You don't ask. You just nod respectfully. By now, you're walking without a destination. Your feet know better than your brain, and honestly, they've been making great decisions all day. You find yourself near the edge of the square, where a group of children is sitting in a circle, carefully tearing colored paper into parasol shapes and gluing them onto old fans. A teenage girl oversees them like a benevolent queen. She doesn't speak much, just nods when they get it right, gently adjusts a glue angle when someone's parasol ends up looking like a squid. You sit on a bench nearby, watching. One child holds up their creation, an umbrella made of blue tissue, with a red paper elephant in the center and two eyes drawn on the handle. They beam. This one's for rainy days that don't feel like rain. You clap. Everyone does. The teenage girl catches your gaze and smiles. They're learning that umbrellas don't have to work to matter. You blink. That might be the best philosophy you've heard all year. She tells you this little workshop is unofficial. No name, no fee. People bring scraps. Kids bring curiosity. We just fold what's left and see what it becomes. You watch them create messy, marvelous, doomed parasols. None of them symmetrical, all of them perfect. A little boy toddles over, holds out a parasol made from egg carton, rice paper, and what might be seaweed. "You can have it," he says. "It listens real good." You take it like it's the crown jewels. He's already gone, dancing back to the glue table with jelly on his chin and purpose in his step. You sit for a while, cradling the gift. It does feel like it's listening. The breeze returns, barely there. A sigh through the paper stalls. It carries the scent of pandan, ash, and the last flickers of sunlight. And with it, music. Not loud, not professional. Just a man playing a single-stringed instrument, plucking notes so slowly you feel each one land on your shoulder before it fades. People gather, standing just close enough to share warmth, just far enough to leave space for quiet. The tune wanders, no melody, no chorus. Just a soft walk through someone's thoughts. You open the little parasol. It barely unfolds. One rib is crooked. The seaweed fringe falls over your hand. Still, it shades you from something. And in that moment, you understand. It isn't about protection. It's about permission. To rest, to carry beauty, to move slowly. You hold it over your heart like a lantern. The market continues to fold itself inward, stalls packed away, lanterns dimmed, bells untied from hooks and wrapped like jewelry. A woman passes you, balancing a stack of parasols on her head, walking with the elegance of a poem on stilts. Someone nearby whispers, "Tomorrow, again." You don't know if they mean the market, the umbrellas, the songs, or sleep. But you agree. Tomorrow, again. The final stretch of twilight slides across the market like a silk scarf pulled gently from the shoulders of the day. The lanterns are dimmer now, not extinguished, just winding down. A few flicker as if debating whether they still want to be lanterns. One gives up and becomes a moth nest. No one blames it. You walk slowly toward the bridge, but not in a straight line. The market won't allow it. You're pulled sideways by little pockets of magic still lingering, like that stall that only opens at dusk to sell umbrellas for dreams that haven't happened yet. The vendor doesn't speak. He just offers you a parasol painted in swirls of gray and lavender. When you ask what it's for, he simply shrugs and hands you a card. For use when you're not sure who you're becoming. You keep walking. To your left, a group of young dancers is practicing moves under moonlight, spinning with open parasols like slow-motion galaxies. They move in perfect silence, except for the occasional giggle when someone trips on their own feet or ambition. One umbrella gets launched across the square. It lands upright in a fruit basket. No one removes it. The fruit seems fine with this. Jean-Baptiste appears again, leaning against a tree, sketching the dancers. He's got ink on his elbow, a flower behind his ear, and the kind of quiet grin that only shows up when someone's been gently changed by a place. He sees you and raises his sketchbook. Inside, a drawing of you. Not heroic, not glamorous. Just you, sitting with your little egg carton umbrella, a cat sleeping beside you, and the night leaning softly on your shoulder. He flips to a second sketch, the parasol lounge. Your chair, the constellation parasol overhead. You thank him with a slow nod. He responds with a slow bow. No words. Perfect. As you near the bridge, the gecko from your ceiling earlier this morning scuttles across your path and disappears behind a clay pot. You wonder if he's been following your emotional arc all day, probably taking notes. You pause at the bridge's edge. The wood creaks gently under your weight, and the rope handrails sway with memory. Before crossing, you look back one last time. The market is glowing now, not with lights, but with presence. A kind of after-image, like when you close your eyes and still see color. You think of the Parasol Hospital, the Whisper Exchange, the duelists, the storyteller. May's voice reading names into the dusk. You think of Soggy, the shrimp hole umbrella, the child who gave you the listening one. And suddenly your arms are full of more than just paper and handles. They're full of kindness, of patience, of time made tangible. You begin walking across the bridge. The water below reflects everything imperfectly. Distorted parasols, softened lights, elongated shadows. But somehow it looks more accurate that way. A truth not sharpened by precision. You reach the other side. The village is quieter now. The clay walls breathe cooler air. Crickets tune up for their midnight concert. You pass a man sweeping the alley with a broom made of leaves. He nods as you pass. Your house waits, exactly where you left it, pretending not to have missed you. You slide open the door. Inside, peace. The parasols you left earlier have made room for new friends. The egg carton umbrella now leans next to Elephant. The gray one rests against the wall, handle tilted slightly, as if listening for dreams you haven't dreamed yet. You set the dream parasol, the one for becoming, at the foot of your mat. The rice cake from May still sits wrapped, untouched. You unwrap it. It's soft, a little sticky. Smells faintly of ginger and good advice. You eat it in 2 bites. You wash your hands with rainwater from a clay jar. The water's cool. So is the night. You lie down. And you think, there are places where time is currency. And there are places where time is company. The umbrella market in 19th century Siam? It's both. As your eyes grow heavy, you remember the paper parasol you painted. Badly. The vendor told you it didn't need to be beautiful to be remembered. You hope it's still drying somewhere. Smudged, uneven, loved. A breeze rolls through your open window. Your eyes flutter. And before sleep takes you, you whisper to the parasols in the corner. Fold gently. They don't answer. But you feel their silence wrap around you like shade on a too bright day. The morning returns quietly, like a polite guest who never really left. Just stepped outside for a moment to let you rest. You wake slowly, the way one peels paper from a sun-warmed mango. There's no rush, no alarms, just a soft ache in your shoulders, and the lingering memory of 100 paper umbrellas nodding in approval. The parasols in your corner remain exactly as you left them, except that somehow, they seem better rested than you. The egg carton one leans jauntily. The gray one has rotated slightly, now facing the window, still listening. You suspect it overheard your dreams. You stretch. Yawn. Stub your toe on a folded mat with the quiet dignity of a monk who's accepted that enlightenment involves furniture pain. Outside, the alley smells like warm rice and early effort. A few vendors are already passing through, baskets on hips, parasols tucked under arms like folded birds. You step out into the day without ceremony, still barefoot, still wrapped in yesterday's story. The market is stirring once more, but today, you're not rushing to it. You walk the long way around. The path curves behind the melon stall, dips beneath the banyan trees and threads through a tiny garden you've never noticed before. Half wild, half tamed, filled with low mounds of mint and sleepy dragonflies drunk on dew. You breathe in deeply. You don't arrive at the market so much as drift into it. It's different in the morning. Quieter. Everything's being born again. Canopies lifted, tables set, banners untied like yawns. You make your way back to the parasol stalls. One vendor is still asleep on his crates, snoring into a pile of tassels. Another is meditating while balancing a closed umbrella on his head like it's his personal philosophy. And then, from the far end of the market, you hear it. A sound like 100 paper wings unfolding at once. You follow it, and find the new delivery. 3 oxen, 1 cart, a mountain of parasols wrapped in thick cloth. The vendor overseeing the delivery is unfamiliar, tall with long gray hair braided into a single rope and eyes the color of storm-washed stone. She wears a tunic painted with constellations and speaks in a whisper that makes everyone lean in. These, she says, unwrapping the top parasol, are made for fog. And fog, indeed, rolls in from the canal like it received an invitation and RSVP'd with flourish. One by one, the fog parasols are revealed, thin as breath, pale as moonlight, and painted with colors so soft they seem to appear only when you're not looking straight at them. You reach out to touch one. The fabric is cool, damp. It leaves no trace on your fingers, but makes them tingle, as if they've touched the idea of water. The vendor explains, these parasols are not for shade, not for rain. They're for crossing. You tilt your head. Crossing what? She shrugs. Whatever you're between. You ask if they're for sale. She says no, but she lets you hold one. It's weightless. You feel taller with it in your hand, slower, calmer, like you're half a person, half a pause. She tells you to take a walk with it. So you do. You drift through the morning crowd like a poem with legs. The parasol doesn't block the fog, it invites it. You can barely see where you're going, but that feels correct. You pass the tea stall. They wave. You pass the napper from yesterday. Still napping. You pass a stall where children are drawing dreams onto paper plates and calling them emergency parasols. And then you find yourself somewhere else. It's still the market. But it's also not. It's quieter, softer, more between. You lower the parasol. The fog begins to lift. And you're back. The vendor is waiting. You hand her the parasol with both hands, bowing slightly. She returns the gesture. You'll know when to carry it again, she says. You believe her. Back in the more solid parts of the market, the pace is picking up. Someone's selling coconut pancakes. Someone else is trying to convince a customer that umbrella balm is definitely a thing. The duelists are back. This time, they're judging an umbrella fashion show, where parasols are worn as hats, skirts, and, at one point, shoes. The winner is a small child wearing an umbrella folded into a bow tie. No one questions it. You sit again in your favorite parasol lounge chair. It welcomes you like an old friend who never asks where you've been. And you sit, and breathe, and listen. Because even now, after so many parasols, so many laughs, so many silences, the market still has more to tell you. The parasol lounge chair creaks beneath you, not in protest, but in greeting, like a friend resuming a conversation mid-sentence. The breeze has returned, lighter now, teasing loose strands of ribbon and stray feathers from parasol stalls. It smells faintly of mint, paper, and that mysterious morning scent markets always seem to make from nothing in particular. You lean back and close your eyes just for a moment, which of course means 20 minutes. When you open them, a small bowl of something warm has appeared beside you. Sticky rice, mung beans, a dab of sweet coconut cream, placed there by a kind hand, or perhaps a quiet conspiracy. You eat slowly. Every bite tastes like a story you're not in a rush to finish. The parasol fashion show is in full swing now. Someone walks the runway with a giant umbrella strapped sideways like a turtle shell. Another is spinning twin parasols while balancing a jackfruit on their head. The judges are three grannies sipping tea and giving out scores using fans instead of numbers. One contestant receives a polite breeze, which is apparently a perfect score. Jean-Baptiste is sketching all of it furiously. You peek over his shoulder and see that the drawings have started to evolve. Not just faces and clothes now, but feelings, moods, metaphors. A parasol shaped like heartbreak. Another that opens into a question mark. He catches you looking and shrugs. The market changes your hand. You nod. Everything changes your hand here. You wander again, this time following sound instead of sight. Laughter, soft drums, the tinkle of ceramic cups clinking together. You pass a stall that offers parasol advice for a fee. The vendor holds up two umbrellas and asks the customer, "Do you want shade or clarity?" You keep walking before she asks you the same. A few stalls down, you see a crowd forming, not frantic, just curious. At the center, a quiet man unfolding a parasol larger than any you've seen yet. Its fabric is black, but in the sunlight, it reveals patterns in gold, scenes painted in near-invisible ink. When tilted just right, images emerge. A wedding, a storm, a market much like this one, but in a desert, with camels and stars. A boat ride under cherry blossoms, someone crying in the rain with their face hidden. The parasol spins slowly in his hands, revealing memory after memory. No one speaks. Even the breeze holds its breath. He closes the umbrella with a soft snap, bows once, and walks away. No explanation, no price tag. Just the feeling that you've remembered something that never happened to you. People disperse in silence, carrying thoughts that feel like folded poems. You drift again, this time toward a quieter alley where a group is gathered around a long table. On it, broken parasols, scraps of silk, odd bits of bamboo, tiny tools, and a big sign, "Make your own." No instructions, just space. A few people are threading spokes together. One man is gluing leaves in a spiral. A woman is painting a constellation of freckles across the inside of her parasol, saying, "So it always remembers my sister's nose." You find an open spot, laid out before you, a paper circle, a short handle, some cord, a brush, and a tray of colors labeled only by feelings, regret, newness, thunder, nap, curry, almost. You choose nap and almost. You begin to paint. You're not good at this. You paint a crooked mountain and a lopsided sun. You add two birds, then a third, because the first two looked lonely. You smudge the edges with your sleeve. You dab a corner with your thumb and pretend it's on purpose. And slowly, your parasol begins to look like something only you could have made. Which is to say, slightly confused, but deeply sincere. You leave it to dry in the sun and tag it with your name. Just a small mark in the corner. Someone ties a ribbon to it that reads, "Folded with intention." You nod. That feels right. Further on, someone is selling tea that claims to remind you of good decisions. You don't question it. You drink a cup and immediately remember the time you chose kindness instead of cleverness. You decide to have a second. Back at the Parasol Lounge, someone has set up a storytelling booth. You sit, and the teller, an older woman with the voice of a grandmother wrapped in a wool sweater, says, "Tell me one thing you saw today." You say, "A parasol that showed me someone else's memory." She nods. "Good." Then she tells you a tale about a man who once lost his umbrella, built a new one from apology, and used it to shelter others during every storm thereafter. You sit in silence for a while after. The sun begins its slow descent again. People start folding, rolling, stacking. Even the music grows softer, played now on a stringed instrument that seems to sigh between notes. Someone walks past you carrying a parasol made entirely of pressed flowers and silence. You nod. They nod back. You realize you haven't checked the time in hours, maybe days. You don't want to. The sky shifts again, and you know, somehow, it's almost time to say goodbye. But not yet. Not quite. The parasol you painted, crooked mountain, blurry birds, the smudge that accidentally became a hill, is dry now. Someone's hung it up with others along a twine line that cuts across the square like a gentle breeze made visible. Yours flutters ever so slightly, not showing off, just existing. Modestly, gratefully. You stand there a while, looking at it. No one else stops, but you don't need them to. This parasol isn't here to be admired. It's here to say, I was made. That's enough. Behind you, the last few vendors are beginning the slow, deliberate process of packing up. The tea sellers are sealing their leaves in tins. The napper has finally stirred and is folding his cushion like a sacred text. Even Jean-Baptiste is gone, though he's left a sketch pinned to a pole. A lone umbrella bobbing on a river, followed by 3 cats in a boat made of laughter. You keep walking. By now, you know the market's rhythm better than your own. You follow it to the melon stall, your unofficial anchor point in this floating world. The melon seller smiles when he sees you, already cutting a thick slice without a word. Final piece, he says. Chilled over river stones. You accept it with both hands. The juice is cold, sweet, forgiving. Like it's saying, you tried today, I noticed. You eat it slowly. He asks, leaving soon? You nod. He squints toward the sky. You'll be back. Everyone comes back. You thank him, unsure if he means the market, or this version of yourself, or just the inevitable need for more melon. You start walking again, not back toward the bridge. Not yet. You take the long way through the half-packed stalls, past the Parasol Hospital, where 2 apprentices are gently brushing dust from an umbrella with a bent handle and telling it softly, you did your best. Past the fashion runway, now empty save for 1 parasol tied to a chair like a forgotten guest at a long-ended party. Past May's stall, also closed now, but with a small note pinned to a post. When in doubt, spin once slowly, then carry on. You obey. 1 spin. Slow. A quiet moment of joy, for no one but you. You keep walking. At the edge of the square, the giant parasol of stars has been lowered and is being gently folded by a team of barefoot caretakers. They do it like one might fold the sky, carefully, reverently, with synchronized breath. As they finish, they each bow to it, then walk away in different directions. The sky above is now soft blue, fading into lavender. The real stars are arriving, less polished, more patient. You take out your gray parasol, the one that listens. It unfolds without resistance, catching the light just enough to shimmer like a kept promise. You hold it above your head, not to block anything, but to carry something. Something small and steady. A woman walking past pauses and says, "That's a quiet one." You nod. It doesn't need to be loud. She smiles. The best ones don't. You share a moment, unremarkable, unforgettable, then part. Near the southern edge of the market, a child runs up holding a basket filled with scraps, ribbon, paper, bamboo slivers, feathers. They ask, "Do you want to make a wish umbrella?" You blink. What's that? They pull out a tiny parasol made of string and onion skin, patched together with joy and reckless optimism. You don't keep it. You write your wish inside, Then we hang it in the tree. When it falls, the wind decides. You crouch down, take a pen. You write your wish. Simple. True. A little sad, a little soft. You tuck it into the parasol. The child beams, runs off, and adds it to a tree heavy with fluttering little dreams. You watch as your wish joins the others, already swaying, already beginning to let go. And now, you feel it. The day is ending, not just the market, but the version of you who entered it. You turn back, taking it all in one last time. The half-packed stalls, the whispers of folded stories, the shimmer of lamplight on umbrellas now closed, but not quiet. You cross the bridge. It sways just enough to remind you you're still carrying the rhythm of this place. Your house greets you with the familiar creak of its door and the scent of woven mats and everything you've brought home. You place your parasols gently in their corner. All of them. Elephant, egg carton, gray, soggy. And the painted one, crooked, proud, beloved. You lie down. The fan hums softly. Outside, the breeze carries with it a scrap of music, a taste of melon, and the faintest trace of jasmine and sun-warmed ink. You close your eyes. The umbrellas rustle gently, like pages of a bedtime story you haven't heard yet. And just before sleep pulls you under, you hear a whisper. A voice made of ribbon, paper, and kindness. Come back when you're ready. You wake the next morning without knowing how long you slept. There's light in the room, but not the usual kind. The light today is slow, kind, as if even the sun is reluctant to rush you. The house is quiet except for the gentle ticking of wooden things settling into their shape. Your mat creaks softly beneath you. The parasols are where you left them, still standing guard, still folded like faithful thoughts. You sit up, stretch, breathe, and for the first time, you feel it. You're different, not transformed, not reborn, just slightly more you. You rise and dress without urgency. Outside, the alley is already busy with murmurs, footsteps, and the sound of someone arguing with a rooster that clearly does not believe in sleep schedules. You step outside. The sky is blue with a little gold spilled into it. Clouds drift like laundry hung across a good memory. Someone's cooking. Someone else is sweeping. A dog yawns in your direction, then rolls over like an old monk who's decided this lifetime is for napping. You wander back toward the bridge, but not to cross it. Not today. You reach the middle and stop, hands resting on the rope rails. Below, the water is still and lazy, reflecting the sky like it's trying to remember it perfectly. Across the bridge, you can see the market beginning again. The stalls go up like clockwork woven with laughter. Ribbons flutter, umbrellas open, one by one, with a sound you now recognize by heart. The shuff thump of something ready to be useful again. You don't cross, you smile. Today, you don't need to enter the market. You've already taken it with you. In your hands, your ribs, your shadows. You feel it when you turn corners. In the way you hold things. In the way you pause before speaking. You carry the kindness of folded paper, the quiet strength of painted bamboo, the memory of voices, slow and warm, like tea left to steep in a cup no one rushes to finish. You think of the umbrellas still drying in the sun, of the whisper exchange, of parasols painted with regret and hope and badly drawn cats. You think of May, of Jean-Baptiste, of the girl who believed in noodle umbrellas, and the boy who folded 100 with aching hands and a hungry heart. You think of the breeze that knew your name before you did, and the parasol that simply listened. Your eyes close, and in the soft dark behind your lids, you see them all, spinning gently, carried by wind, memory, time. And you realize this wasn't a visit, it was a return. The market has always been with you, a place that unfolds only when you're ready to rest, to slow, to notice, to hold something gently and say, "This matters, even if only to me." The parasols spin, the sun rises, the world does what it always does. But you move softer now, like paper in wind, like shade in light, like a secret carried under canvas and silence. Sleep begins to brush your thoughts once more, not because you're tired, but because the journey, finally, is whole. So you lie back down, blanket over toes. One parasol beside you, half open, just in case. And in the hush before sleep, you whisper, "Fold gently." The parasol rustles once, then stills. The fan hums like a lullaby. The house settles around you like a story tucking itself in. And slowly, dream by dream, you drift beneath a sky full of umbrellas.